So due to the lack of proper training and sufficient educational support for juveniles in correctional centres, it's been difficult and challenging to reintegrate juveniles in society. We've got Member of Parliament for Central St. Mary, Dr. Morais, joining us to talk about the situation as it is, what he sees as the challenges and the implications of the situation and how we fix it. Morning to you, Dr. Guy.
Morning, Dr. Guy. Welcome,
Good morning,
sir.
Simone. Good morning, Neville. Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, Jamaica.
Good to have you. Let's talk a little bit about the situation as it is. Just over 200 children in the facilities, 2 full-time psychologists, 2 seasonal psychologists or psychiatrists, and 2 sessional.
Right.
Sessional. Not enough? Not adequate?
Certainly not enough. And I mean, the words of the report from the Department of Correctional Services, what they're basically saying, that these persons are engaged in preparing papers for children's court, leaving little or no time to deal with the children who are suffering from different types and levels of mental illnesses, including bipolar disorder, sleeping disorder, depression, and suicide ideation. So certainly this is not enough. And one would have thought that the state would have made sufficient input in ensuring that our children who are, one, there because of whatever they might have done in the communities, in society, that they are properly prepared for reintegration when they get back into society. Essentially, what we are seeing is, and based on the reported point, is to assess it. It's just a holding area. And unfortunately, the measures that the DCS has put in place for these children who are basically wards of the state, they are not preparing them to get back into society, to be, as I said at the select committee, to be contributing citizens. Interestingly, I asked a question too. What data, what research has been done to see whether those who have left the institution become
productive members of society?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And there is none?
There's no data to support that. So all that is happening is that they're kept there and then they're released after the court order or the parole order expires. And that is most unfortunate, because what we want is, one, the country is rife in terms of the numbers of criminal activity that is going on. We need to know whether our children who are in these, who should leave at the age of 18 and are reintegrating the society, whether contributors to what is happening in the community. Yeah. We want to know, as I said as well, how many of these have gone back to the formal prison system, as I termed it in the committee meeting, big prison, because this is a little prison for children. We see where the aim of the Juvenile Correctional Service, if I may read, the program should include academics, vocational training, psychosocial intervention, life skills training, spiritual enrichment, and reintegration. And unfortunately, based on the report of the Lieutenant Colonel Rowe, who came to the committee, we are assessing from the standpoint of the Human and Social and Resource Committee of the Parliament that they have failed in all areas.
Yep, Dr. Guy, I'm reading here that of 48 teaching posts available, 30 are vacant. And it says that between 2018 and 2019, 16 teachers had resigned. So that we're asking for trouble, aren't we?
Definitely. And it's an indictment on the department, as I said. The reality is that there cannot be a system where you are saying, one, where we want minimum grade to be a Bachelor of Science in whatever teaching area. And two, you are not giving these persons the level of remuneration that is afforded in the formal educational system. But what is even more frightening, Neville, is that there is no, as is indicated, there's no established structure to facilitate upward mobility of teachers. Teachers in the DCS do not benefit from the Ministry of Education's training development programs, workshops, and seminars. There is limited or no supervision to ensure that lesson plans, timetables, and maintenance of attendance register are done in accordance with the standards of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Culture. And it does not provide oversight of the system in the DCS. Now, you're just running, you're a frolic of your own, and it cannot be.
Yep.
Because an established, sorry.
No, man, I didn't want to interrupt, but give me some solutions, sir.
Well, certainly. One, there has to be a formal MOU with the Ministry of Education in terms of that. Secondly, the teachers have to be afforded the level of remuneration that is commensurate with their qualification. You cannot have a bachelor's who will decide to spend some time in the Department of Correctional Services who's exposed potentially to some risk, being paid less than a teacher in the classroom outside the formal system, the formal DCS system. Secondly, there has to be that MOU established, the level of supervision established, and secondly, you pay the teachers better. I think you will attract more.
Is there a resource issue though, Doc? Do they have the money to do? Does the government have the money to do this? It's oversight, but is it also a resource issue?
It is not necessarily, yes, but it's not necessarily. And I'll give you an example. There's also an association with Heart Trust, NTA. And part of the concerns that they have reported is that they don't have the equipment. But we know that Heart Trust provides some of these equipment at the community level. Why is it that the DCS is a different community that they will not give? Because we are aware that where members of parliament, for example, have community centers that they want to be part of the heart training program, Heart equip some of them, give some of the equipment. So we cannot understand why a counterpart state agency could not benefit from such things such as Heart.
So let me ask you, I hear you refer to the centers as liquor prison, and I hear you talk about big prison. I hear you talk about data to kind of track the students, but it would seem to me that the liquor prison and the big prison seem to be suffering from similar issues, right?
Certainly.
Because we're not tracking, we're not really looking at rate of recidivism with big prison either. We don't have the resources to track who goes out there, who is reformed, and who is that a reasonable expectation for us to have, for that kind of mechanism to be in place?
It is, yes, it is a reasonable expectation. In fact, some amount of tracking is done in the adult prisons, but not sufficient. But I don't think that particular one is a significant resource constraint. Okay. It is something that can be done, ought to be done. It's a low-hanging fruit.
Where are you going to get the psychiatrists/psychologists from?
Well, you have many in the society who are there. The Ministry of Health and Wellness have psychologists and psychiatrists who work in the system. Unfortunately, the report did not, and we did not interrogate where those psychologists and part-time psychiatrists come from. But the reality is that there has to be a coordination at all government agencies, a joined up effort. What we have in here is a joint up effort, not a joined up effort.
So is this a matter of will then, Dr. Guy? What do you put this down to? Because you're saying all the answers are there. So why, if it is the case, then why do you think it's not happening?
I think they have not really spent much time to address the problem. I think the ministry, as in the words of its chief technical director, they have carried out a survey. They have basically come to Jerusalem a little late, but not too late, however, because we will have some other children who will fall within the system and fall through the cracks, so end up in that system. But I think it is something that, though late, can still be done to ensure that we provide that quality of care, in spite of the fact that they are offenders.
Needs more discussion. Thank you, sir, for spending some time with us this morning. God bless you, sir.
My pleasure as always. Thank you.
Member of Parliament for Central St. Mary, Dr. Morais Guy. When we get back from this break, you will get the tips and tools you need for a smoother homeschooling experience. We do that after we do this.